This next story comes to us from NBCnews.com. Eliel Paulino was less than a block from his apartment complex late one night in 2015 when police lights flashed in his SUV's rearview mirror. After he pulled into his parking lot, police told him the light on his license plate was out. Within minutes, a routine traffic stop became a beatdown, court records show. An officer yelled at Paulino to stop talking, then pulled him to the ground. A second policeman jabbed his baton into Paulino's gut. A third struck him more than a dozen times with the baton. An emergency room doctor needed 4 staples to close the wounds in Paulino's battered right arm. In police reports, officers claimed that Paulino fought and resisted arrest. Video from a security camera showed he did not. The city paid Paulino $700,000 after a jury found the beating violated his constitutional rights. The jury forewoman, Jessica Erickson, said in an interview, "The San Jose Police Department has a problem with using excessive force. It needs to stop."
Nationwide, at least 80,000 people are sent to the hospital each year after an interaction with law enforcement or security guards. NBC News found over the past 3 years in San Jose, 43% of use of force incidents ended in a trip to the emergency room.
Are you comfortable with how many people are being hospitalized after use of force incidents?
No, we need to do better. But again, any use of force incident is driven by the noncompliance of the individual that we're trying to detain or arrest.
In the national conversation about policing over the past year, public attention has been focused on those who die at the hands of police officers. Americans know the names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Andre Hill, and others killed by cops. Few know that tens of thousands of people like Paulino end up in emergency rooms after run-ins with the police. Data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that since 2015, more than 400,000 people have been treated in emergency rooms because of a violent interaction with the police or security guards.
The San Jose Police Department says the numbers are high because they're doing the right thing, taking people to the hospital for even minor complaints.
Is focus being put on de-escalation as opposed to resorting to use of force?
We're always looking for opportunities to better ourselves. De-escalation, slowing things down, tactical conduct, all these things are basis for how our officers interact with members of the community.
But there's also almost no nationwide data on the nature or circumstances of their injuries. Many of the country's roughly 18,000 law enforcement agencies don't tally or make public the number of people who need medical care after officers break their arms, bruise their faces, shock them with tasers.
Marissa Santa Cruz and Paya Tukuafu were celebrating Marissa's 22nd birthday at a San Jose hotel when there was a knock on the door. Staff told them to lower their music. The next knock was the police.
San Jose Police, open the door.
I'm a big guy, dark too, and just the way how I have my tattoos. Some people can't help but to profile you.
Researchers point out that only a tiny portion of arrests involve force, but when police do use force, more than half of the incidents end with a suspect or civilian getting hurt, according to a 2020 analysis.
The police told the couple they had to leave. While they were packing, Paya cursed at the officers.
Start packing and let's go, okay?
Let me pack.
Then 2 seconds later,
Push up and tase this guy. Taser!
the officers used tasers, batons, and a riot gun.
I put myself in between them, and then I was on the floor. All I remember was feeling pain.
Marissa and Paya were taken to the hospital for their injuries.
In and of itself, cussing at a police officer is not enough for them to be able to use force.
Bryce Peterson specializes in police use of force. He says across the country, de-escalation will help rebuild trust between communities and the police.
Officers are there to protect and serve. And so when people see the result of that and it results in people being hospitalized or brutalized, it can definitely erode public trust.
Matthew Hickman, a professor at Seattle University and one of the study's authors, says we need better data on injury severity. Most experts agree that injuries at the hands of cops remain underreported. Nicole Gonzalez Van Cleve, an associate professor of sociology at Brown University, who has researched the Chicago Police Department, said this data depends on the discretion of police who get to decide who is worthy or unworthy of an ambulance. It is absolutely an undercount. But even as the rate of injuries goes unacknowledged in the national conversation about police reform, it has strained the relationship between officers and the people they aim to serve, particularly in black and brown neighborhoods.
Marissa and Paya were not charged and are suing the department. In response to their lawsuit, San Jose police say the use of force was appropriate, reasonable, and constitutionally permissible. Marissa, whose father works in law enforcement, said that night at the hotel has changed how she sees police.
I always did respect police, and I always trusted them with everything because I knew them. I knew a lot of them. And then having this happen firsthand, was the biggest wake-up call.
Van Cleve was quoted as saying, "There is a withering away of community trust. The police are not seen as enforcing the law. They are seen as outside the law." Only in a place like San Jose, California, which requires officers to report injuries and encourages them to bring wounded suspects to the hospital, do we have a glimpse of what the national scale of the issue might be. The city, with just over 1 million residents in the heart of Silicon Valley, took the rare step of tracking injuries and hospitalizations as part of a years-long effort to reduce violent interactions between residents and police officers after long-standing complaints that officers were beating up civilians. Despite those efforts, about 1,300 people ended up in the emergency room after interacting with city police from 2017 to 2020. An analysis of San Jose's data by NBC News and the Marshall Project had found most of the ER visits involved officers using their hands on suspects, our analysis found. Control holds, twisting arms, or holding people down played a role in 60% of the cases. Almost 20% of the people who went to the emergency room were shot with stun guns, and 10% were hit with an impact weapon like a baton. In those 4 years, city data showed encounters with San Jose police left 72 people seriously injured, which includes broken bones, dog bites, internal injuries. 9 more people died, all from gunshot wounds. So there's a whole lot more to this story. It goes down and down, but I'll put a link to it in the description box below. You can read it. There's a lot more that you can read there that I didn't give you. But I did give you, sort of the meat and potatoes of it, where just San Jose, California, how many other cities are there? Dallas, Detroit, Chicago, New York, Mesa, Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles, California, Sacramento, California. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. How many cities in Florida, So how many people in this nation every year are injured and have to go to the emergency room by police officers, and how many come out with bandages or casts or anything like that? But there's one thing that I wanted to give you in this story. You hear my bird. My birds right now, I think, are on crack because they're bouncing around in there. One of them was attacking the mirror and trying to rip it off the... I had to go over there and say, "Hey, I'm doing an editorial. Do you mind?" So back to this. But I wanted to do this one because I thought, there's this one particular paragraph that stuck out to me when they say, in police reports, officers claim that Paulino fought and resisted arrest. Security video cameras showed he did not. And so a lot of people out there ask, why are you out here filming the police? That's why. And I'm not saying Yucaipa PD is bad. I'm not saying any Redlands PD or any of these police departments are bad. But how many people in San Jose, California, this will be an interesting study, back the blue line and say, you know what, our cops we back the blue. They're out here fighting crime. But then we get stuff like this, where their police reports say, he fought and he resisted against us. And then a security video camera shows he did not. Again, video doesn't lie. It just records. So we can see the police reports and read he resisted and fought. Then we look at a video security camera, or security camera video. He's not resisting. What are you talking about? So I wanted to bring this one to your attention. Always, always, always record the police, guys. If you're not recording the police in an interaction that you have with them, it better be because the cop said, put your phone down, put it down. I want your hands empty or whatever. Not because you just decide not to record the police. Oh man, a cop. No, get your phone out and hit record, even audio, and say, I'm audio recording this, or I'm recording this for my documentation. If he says, well, I don't want you holding your phone, well, I'm going to record the audio for my documentation. If he tells you to turn it off, it could very well be a constitutional violation. Yeah. How's that? Having a little fun this morning. No, look, I just want to end this with saying, look, guys, always, always, always record the police. Because you could very well tell the truth and save a guy. This guy got $700,000. Why? Because the video on the security cameras showed different than what the police reports showed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got paid anything. He would just had a bunch of medical bills that were due for a beatdown. But he got paid. And I know that it's not 100%, what do I say? It's not, the greatest of, he still got a beatdown, but it was worth $700,000. And he got a big chunk of that.
While Paya, who works as an unarmed security guard, says he always tries to de-escalate with empathy and understanding.
You put yourself in their shoes and you can automatically feel what they're going through.
And despite what happened, he still hopes to fulfill his dream of going into law enforcement.
What do you all think? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you for tuning in on this Wednesday.